Okay, good evening everybody. Call this meeting to order. The Caribou Planning Board. First item of business is approve the minutes from September 13, 2018. So,
I'm on both absent and present. I don't know how I could have done that. I'm good, but
You're
not that good.
okay. Your motion,
Make a motion that we accept the Caribou Planning Board meeting minutes for Thursday, September 13th, 2018, as presented.
as presented or
Or
with?
with the changes to Todd not being able to be here and absent at the same time. So he was absent for that meeting, so we'll change that.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Phil. All in favor? Unanimous. New business. Public hearing regarding the rezoning of portions of residential R1 zone to residential R2 to accommodate changing land use patterns. The affected areas are on map 32, lots 48, residential R1 zone to residential R2 zone on Paris Snow Drive. Map 26, lots 61, 63, 64, 67, 70, 73, 75, and 77 on Marshall Avenue. Map lots 25 and 28. The R1 residential district encompasses most of the older residential neighborhoods and contains mostly high-density single-family dwellings. The R2 residential district still features single-family dwellings but also allows multifamily dwellings. We'll now declare the public hearing for this matter open at 5:32. Is there anybody present who wishes to speak to this matter?
Sure. What we've seen is over time in these areas. I'll speak first to the Washington Street area. That's a little bit more quickly described. Basically, on the Washington Street area, on the corner of Dahlgren Street and Washburn Street, that was a small family market for a long time. And over time, as the zoning had been updated around it, we'd kept that a commercial property for years. Some 30 years ago, that ceased to be a commercial property and was built over into an apartment complex. So there's a multi-family housing situation going on there right now. So that will allow those people that are still in residences there to keep their residential home. It actually gives them a few more tools to work with, if you will, if they decided that they actually wanted to do an apartment situation for revenue. They could then do that because they could do a multifamily application there. So as we move on to the area around Marshall Street and Paris Snow Drive, what we've seen is a request to redevelop. And again, as we go through time and the zoning has been happening around your neighborhood and the changing in land use trends, we see that there's an area of R2 abutting to the R1 neighborhood where you guys are in Paris Snow. And so rather than making a small island of R2 or spot zoning, we extended that zone out across Paris Snow, the upper 4 lots on the northern side, and the adjoining lots across the street on the southern side of Paris Snow, and that the lots associated with Hilltop, and also the old subdivision on the other side of Marshall.
Are you talking where the tower is? By the church?
Do we have the big map that we?
Yeah, I can put it right on the computer.
Oh.
That's why it's always good to have paper.
Okay, computer. We love this technology when it works just right. So if you're holding a paper map, and there's paper maps available out front, you can see You can make this really interesting and try to go on the internet. There, just like magic. And so we'll zoom in a bit.
That's what we're looking at now though, right?
Right.
You don't have, where's the map that we have today, that we're working with today? So that they can see the changes, because they can look at this and say,
I see what you mean. So the area I was describing first was on the corner of Doggan Street and Washburn Street. So that's in the area where the big black dash line is, where it says Spring Street on the screen.
I don't think there's any concerns about that
Right.
here this evening.
Where the old Kimball's Market used to be years
Correct.
ago.
Yep. So,
So Ken, is what you have depicted current or proposed?
proposed. In the area where it says R2, those larger lots were actually bisected and were actually part R2 and part R1. And so at the planning board meeting last month, we proposed to push the R2 district all the way through and include those lots on both sides of Pear Snow Drive at the end. I believe there was 4 lots impacted on the north side and 4 lots impacted on the right side, I believe. It includes the area where Hilltop School is currently, and
So were those subdivisions never developed?
that subdivision was retired some time ago, probably 10 years ago. It was never fully fulfilled. It was retired. It was bought up by a local developer who has since expressed an interest in possibly doing a similar project to the Hilltop project.
And what land is that? Where you're referring to?
That's the field area right across from the Little League fields.
Right, the grown-up
Between-
area, it's all in alders.
Marshall.
Right.
Yep, it's on Marshall. Yep. Between Newton and Peterson.
Yeah.
It doesn't appear then that the lower portion of Pear Snow is going to be affected on either side?
Correct,
Am I right on that?
correct. That was the planning board's.
Starting at about that heavy line where the S is in the snow, that
It's
area.
basically, yeah, it's basically right at the intersection of Marshall and Paris Snow. I think is where we said we were gonna square it off at.
Does that answer your question? Or do you?
Could you tell me, what,
R3, so rural residential. Until such a time that someone comes forward and wants to do some sort of development, there's no really need to change the zoning there.
Part of the whole logic was we wanted to change the zoning to facilitate the Hilltop School project, and we try as best as possible to avoid what is called spot zoning, where you So we try to, you know, if you have an R1 or an R2, you try to make the whole area so that it has the same flavor, if you will, you know, and so when we have a project such as this and it necessitates a change in zoning, we look, and as Ken mentioned, we noticed that there was an R2 not far away, and so why don't we convert to R2, the land in between the current R2 and the Hilltop project, and let's,
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else have any questions regarding the proposed zoning changes?
I live in Jeroba Circle, and I think you weren't talking, are you, about the land off of Russ Street? There's a spot that never got houses in there. And the man that on Vesta Drive would be where his house is. He bought that land is what we thought, is, you know, that's what he told my husband. So it's not very big, so you're not talking about that. See, that's my concern, that if you make it a big, large area, then you can't control what ideas anybody gets. Because the people, even on Paris Snow Drive, those people in those ranch homes have been there a long time. And, well, if you have somebody go in there and build apartments of any kind, it's going to change life. It's not going to, I mean, it's fine, senior citizen housing up where the school was. But if you put apartments in there, it's just going to change the whole, talk about flavor, it will. Because, like, on Newton, there was, at one time, there was a doctor had a home, and I thought that he actually bought some of that land at the time. And I don't know how that turned out. I can't remember. Can you remember his name? Wingard, yeah, he was a surgeon, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he had it all fixed so the kids in the neighborhood, you know, and his kids. So if you're talking about that whole strip and you change the zoning on that, it doesn't seem like much maybe, but that's the nest of those homes. And if I suppose you have a legal right to have it, if somebody owned it and have a drive for a house. But I don't think apartments is gonna be very good. So do you have to include that with up at the school?
Is the parcel of land that she's referring to?
The old subdivision that was retired.
Oh, okay.
I think, to my knowledge, that's a single owner now, is that whole piece of land?
Correct.
No, it's gonna have apartments go in behind my house. Would you?
Yes, Charlie?
When it goes to R2, or if it does go to R2, is there any restrictions on how large you can build apartments in an R2 zone? Do you have any control over that, or can somebody come and build another floor apartments type building or something like that?
There's restrictions with regards to, you know, setbacks and stuff like that, but it's all gonna depend on, I think, the scope of work that they're gonna wanna do and the amount of area that they have.
There are dimensional requirements according to the size of the lot.
And size of lot versus how many units you can have?
Right. And if you have an existing building and you divide it more than once, it becomes a subdivision, so you have to go through an application to be a subdivision. So if you divided your house up into 3 sections, there would be a permit for that, a process. Duplexes are allowed in an R2. Apartment situations. Basically, it gives you a few more options than an R1. The R1 district, by definition, encompasses most of the older residential neighborhoods and is located within convenient reach, which will contribute to the balanced neighborhoods and enhance the attractiveness of the community. And R2, also by definition, R2 residential district. The R2 district encompasses most of the older residential neighborhoods, so pretty much the same. Is located within convenient reach of the business facilities. The R2 district is expected to contain most of the multi-family or apartment type dwellings likely to be needed by a community. However, in harmony with the established neighborhoods, predominant land use will probably continue to be single-family residence. As in the R1 district, certain additional uses which meet the requirements of the ordinance may be permitted, which contribute to the balance of neighborhoods and enhance the attractiveness of the community. So there are only a couple small differences, but yeah, there could be an apartment situation in those R2 areas.
And that's what I mean, can handle. But if you're talking about going in these places, it's only a big field. It's only big enough for a couple of houses in there. And if you leave it open zoning to do something different, have a 3-story building or something and all this, that's gonna change the whole thing. And it's a family neighborhood.
Right.
It really is. I mean, it was, you went up to the school, your kids were there, you know, and we had our thing now. We didn't mind. We went down on South Main. We used to be a grocery store and some convenience stores. But there's a big difference between South Main and our neighborhoods. And that's my concern, that it's gonna change it for families. This isn't the same. If you have apartment buildings, you don't really know the people, you know, and you're gonna have more concerns about your children, where they're going and everything. The way it's always been is on that street, you knew, you know, who was coming and going, voting.
One of the things that I'd like to bring up is the changing age of not only Caribou's population, but Aroostook County's population. And the number of individuals that are getting on in years, that are having difficulty maintaining a home is growing. And I know a lot of people who have said that they wish there were more apartments in Caribou, nice apartments, because they can't maintain their homes anymore. And that, you know, and so Caribou, that the more R2 that there is, the more options our senior citizens are going to have to choose to live at. And I mean, it's not, I mean, and when it comes to apartments, you know, whether they are nice and neat or not is all up to the developer. As well as, you know, there are city ordinances that control, you know, appearance of things. And, I mean, the only, what the catalyst that started this all was the Hilltop School project. And then our desire to round out the zoning areas so that we don't have these spots all over that are zoned differently. I personally don't think apartments are a bad thing. I think Caribou's going to be needing more of them. It's just my personal opinion, but I don't know if the possibility of somebody putting, and as far as how many stories it is, what's the, Caribou has a maximum height,
Yeah,
is it 30 feet?
I believe it's 35.
I hear what your concern is, but I also think there's an argument that says that maybe an apartment, you know, depending on the apartment, a couple of duplex. See, right now you couldn't really put some duplex houses there, and with the R2 you can. So.
But I don't think in the middle of everything it's good, because wherever we had duplexes before, it would be on the outer edge, like behind where Miller's was and everything, you know, and that road that goes
Rose Street.
up Rose Street going up, yes, and around, and then a little further than Rose Street.
On Solomon Street.
And then you have those duplexes. But it changes a lot. That's the only thing. I don't see, that field you're talking about is not big, and you barely get two nice house lots in there, the way house lots should be now.
But still, by that same token, I mean, I do understand your concern for that, but you also have a person who owns property that is maybe wishing to do something with it. And in turn, by doing that, he's gonna end up paying tax dollars to the city. Large building being put up, you know, I couldn't foresee doing that. A couple small houses would fit in there, sure. But if the person who's gonna own the property isn't gonna sell them and he's gonna rent them, he can choose his tenants. I mean, you can't necessarily choose your neighbors who move in next to you. You know, and by the same token, you know, a lot of these people who have these types of apartment buildings do somewhat scrutinize who, you know, who they allow to live there. I don't think that the adage of it's been this way, it's always been that way. Moving forward, we need to have a broader look at what we're going to do with the city in the means of attracting people and what we can offer them. Having a field in between two, you know, residential areas that's left undeveloped because it's different than what we're accustomed to. I disagree with. I think we need to move forward, and with, as Mr. Steer was saying, with the outward migration of younger people, you know, there's going to be more needs for smaller apartments for other people, and I think that's probably a prime area where, you know, something like that would be beneficial.
I love the idea of Hilltop and all of that. I mean, I could sing that.
Ask a question. If the beautiful development that is scheduled fills up and there's a need for more, and they wanted to build, you know, a replica in that field,
Well, then it would be taken over where all the ranch homes are.
would that be
I mean,
distasteful to you?
well, I guess if someone was gonna pay everybody a lot of money for their homes to do that, it's a different situation when you're talking about people's property and their home, because you're counting on being able to sell it for at least enough, you know,
But given something that would be built there, that lot with the development behind you, or behind those people who live in that area now, that's gonna help increase the value of their home, because you have other abutting properties that are similar.
We thank hearing at 5:57, and at this time, I believe, are we looking for a motion?
Before we do
Ken?
that, Dennis, when Ken was talking, you kind of raised your hands. Did you have anything you'd like to add to this?
It's covered.
Okay, just covered. Okay.
Ken, are we looking for a motion on this?
If you want to carry through with the rezoning and recommend that it go to council, we need a motion.
Is anybody interested in making a motion?
Make a motion to bring this to the council as proposed.
There's a motion? Motion, seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you very much. The second public hearing tonight is actually,
Yeah. Just for those that are here, residents that are here, what's the process moving forward now with this rezone?
we'll need to present this idea to the city council. The city council will decide whether or not it actually becomes part of our zoning ordinance.
What you just voted on?
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's still the council needs to decide on this.
Yeah, it's not we're advisory to the city council. City council has the final say. So next month or whenever, it'll go to the city council to be discussed again.
In which turn, am I correct, they'll have a public hearing at that point as well, at the council level?
So there is still opportunity to alter this.
And that meeting is scheduled for which night?
With the public hearing notice requirement,
Any other questions or comments? Okay. As
Okay.
we're moving along with the agenda, we've actually got a second public hearing regarding an approval for a building permit for the application of Caribou Senior Housing LLC. We do have the architect here. We've got Rick Gabuti of Gabuti Thomas Architects. He's brought some things for us to look at. He's going to describe the project for us, so for the public hearing. Just bust you guys out too much. You're not going to see them.
No, probably not. They changed the zoning, somebody else.
You guys,
Should probably declare the public hearing open.
It's your preference?
Yeah, well, let's go ahead with the presentation. Well, no, let's make it. Let's declare this the opening of the public hearing at 6:02 on the second matter for the conversion of the Hilltop Elementary School to senior housing. And we'll begin with a presentation from the architect of the developers. Could you, in the microphone if possible, could you state your name and the company you work for?
Sure.
My name is Rick Gaduti. I work for Gaduti Thomas Architects in Portland. How do you want me to, am I presenting it to you, or?
No, well,
I'll put it over on the other side over
I
there.
was hoping to catch it on TV, but we're not going to be able to please everybody.
You don't want me on TV.
you may want to face the audience a little more since we have hard copies for ourselves.
Alrighty. So I have 4 drawings: a site plan, a building plan, a couple of unit plans, and a picture. I'm going to start off with the site plan, and I'm going to briefly describe what we're proposing. Marshall Avenue, side of the school, and this is into the area of the neighborhood where you've been talking about. So what we're proposing to do is not add anything to the existing school in terms of footprint or bulk and size. What we're proposing to do is to utilize the existing school to provide housing for the elderly and some complementary services, including, meals, meetings, social gatherings, all related to the elderly. We are going to have a primary entrance at the location of the existing school entry, which is right here. We are going to have a covered carport. When you come in, currently you come in, this is all paved, all through here. It's paved all along there. What we're proposing to do is to come in, do a turnaround, come in underneath the carport, drop off people, and they can come back out, turn around like this, and head out. There will be parking for some tenants along here. And there'll be parking, this is new parking, by the way. And then the existing parking over here will be also available for the tenants and for guests and family members. The breakout of the building is, this is currently the gymnasium, the kitchen's on this end, and the mechanical and locker rooms are on this end of the school. Classrooms, there's that main corridor that comes down through the length of the building here, and type units for the elderly. Each unit, and I'll describe that in more detail, each unit, actually what we're doing is the classrooms are a little oversized, and for the requirements to meet those one-bedroom sizes. So what we're actually doing is we're taking two classrooms and turning it into 3 units, and I'll explain that to you in a minute. As you come in, we're going to be providing this new driveway with landscaping and parking spaces, some ADA, some regular, at 1.25 per spaces per unit. We are intending to have a common area here, which I'll show you in a little bit more detail, with access to outdoor gathering area in the courtyard space here. And then finally, we're going to have our utilities off the back end of the building, our propane tanks and our dumpsters and so on and so forth. So that's a general overview of the site.
Rick, how many apartment units altogether?
38.
38.
So, right here, there's the turnaround, which is right here. Everybody okay with that? So you'll be able to come into the building, you'll be able to come in and get dropped off. There's the carport right there. You'll be able to enter the building through sort of what now is currently the kitchen, into a common area here, which is the gym. And you'll also be able to enter in through the existing doors here, which will bring you to this wing. And there'll also be the secondary entrance, which will come from that parking area over there, providing access to this wing here. So what we have is we've converted all the classrooms on this side to apartments. They'll all have exposure and access to outdoor space, either in the courtyard area or on the street side area. They have the ability to get from their unit to parking area here, or they can come out their unit door down the corridor and get to their parking area that way.
Excuse me, so did you say that every apartment will have access to the outdoor?
But there is a common laundry facility in the common area. Within the common area, they'll be sitting. There may be some secondary uses. We don't know at this point what they might be, but we have the space to do that. That would be related to elderly living. We're going to reserve this area, which is the existing kitchen, for a future kitchen. We don't know what size yet. We haven't determined what the requirements would be, but we're anticipating to be able to provide served meals for the tenants and potentially functions or whatever. But at this point, it's fairly undefined. So that's basically layout of the building. And then this is, hopefully you'll be able to understand this, but I just wanted to show you briefly the idea of how, for usual classrooms that we deal with in schools in Maine, usually we can put one unit in one classroom, but in this case they're so big that what we came up with is we're going to actually divide the two classrooms into 3 units. And so you'll have the opportunity to come down, enter the unit here. There'll be a kitchen. They're long and deep, so what we wanted to do was to try and create a view all the way through the unit to some large windows and a door that accesses a little patio outside. There'll be a sleeping area. There's a bathroom, a closet. So these are in the neighborhood of 400 square feet, 400 or 500 square feet. The other type of unit, so this is sort of is a modified 1-bedroom. This is a real 1-bedroom, which is kitchen, laundry, bathroom, bedroom, living area. And again, when you come in here, the idea is to bring the outside light in, so that when you enter, you feel like you're not walking into an enclosed space. You're walking into a living area that's connected to the outside, which you can get to. So that's sheet 3. The final sheet is, my client said, when you make a flat roof school look like housing. And this is our attempt to do it. It's on the scale, a little bit more on the scale of the surrounding neighborhood, the surrounding houses. It's I do a lot of elderly housing, and there's always some subsidy involved that allows things to happen, and in this case this is all market generated, so we had to figure out a way to do it in a creative way to do it, and really these are all all these little gables that happen along here are all defining the units. They provide protection when you come outside from that door that's from the unit to the outside. So our attempt was to break down the scale of it and sort of incorporate it into the neighborhood in terms of the size and the feeling of the, a bit bigger so we could actually downplay the size of the gymnasium a little bit. We can't completely disguise it, but we wanted to create a sense of that's where you go, that's the entrance, and it's covered and protected and convenient for the residents. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know a lot more about it than what I told you. And we've gone through the building. We've generated all of our requirements. We can meet all the requirements. The building will be almost completely reclad in a residential character. There'll still be some of the existing brick that's there. You'll still recognize the window patterns. We're using some of the rough opening. Anybody would enjoy.
Have these gone through the fire marshal's office yet?
They will go through the fire marshal's office.
Yeah.
Actually, technically, because it's residential only, the state fire marshal's office doesn't review residential only. So if it was a mixed use, if we put in, if we put in a restaurant or something like that, and it was 2 uses, then it would have to go to the state fire marshal's office. The state fire marshal does not review apartment buildings.
So then from a fire perspective, are there smoke detectors in all rooms, or is the building sprinkled?
The building, they will review the sprinkler system. Will be one of 2 classifications of sprinkler, either 13 or 13R. And 13R is a reduced head capacity.
So the building will be sprinkled?
The building will be sprinkled, and it will have a full automated connected fire alarm system, which the sprinkler system will be tied to.
Is it, if you could go back to this page?
Yep.
I'm just envisioning myself living there, and I'm wondering if I can...
You want your name on one of these now?
No, I'm just wondering, I'm gonna go straight out my door.
Correct.
And is that something that's gonna be allowed in a sense, or
Yep.
are the shrubs gonna prohibit that, or?
No,
So
there's meant to
people-
be connection, there's meant to be connection directly to the unit.
So they can go from their,
Right.
take the shortcut.
They can take shortcut, and that's by the way, that's very unusual for elderly housing. Usually elderly housing is controlled to a much greater degree. In other words, there's usually a single in and out. And in this case, these guys wanted to they wanted to have more of a different kind of a feel.
Well, it provides more freedom.
Correct.
Come and go.
That's right. So that's the intent. There are up here, right where the old boiler room, there are 3 units there that won't have.
For practical purposes, I'll say the front of the school,
Right here. Yep.
right in that area
Yeah.
there. There'll be parking
Yep.
for the tenants.
Right.
What about the road that they put in for the buses? Does that stay there, or is that gonna be taken out?
This one right here.
Right.
I don't think they've made the decision as to whether it's going to be taken out or not. Right? It won't have to be there, but I think it will be maintained. Otherwise, we'd have to have a turnaround up here.
Okay.
But we
That's
have.
going down along the tree line there,
Yes.
between their lot and our lots.
Right. Yep. Yep. I don't. Did we decide on that? Did you decide whether you're going to take it out or not?
No, we didn't. One is we really didn't see there being much traffic.
Right.
We,
I can see where it'd be beneficial for snow removal as well.
right, an emergency
Yep.
vehicles if they need to be there.
Yep.
But,
To my knowledge, it doesn't affect the Little League in
No.
any way.
No.
Where is all the people know if a person, we might have a hard time to leave out of their private residence or whatever, you know? Especially since they put a, I understand that too, but they put a stop on the parking on Marshall Avenue. Now everybody's, they're even parking on the lawn there where the playground is.
I think Gary from the rec talked about building a little parking lot off of this one, because they have legal easement over that driveway and that parking lot. And so they were looking to build something just kind of at the bottom of that
Down where they
page
built
right
the other,
there.
the new field?
Kind of
in
towards,
that
so
area?
that they could look towards the new field, yes. Yeah.
Have you decided, are you doing anything with the tree line? Well, you probably haven't got that far yet.
Which one?
The one that separates your lot from ours.
Right
This-
there?
This line,
Those trees are tall and they're
Oh.
ugly looking now.
we won't be
And
touching.
they're what?
They're ugly looking.
Yeah, we were.
Sometime you.
Well, and won't they provide a good buffer from the north wind?
Yes.
Yeah, but not these ones anymore.
No.
Ours are getting pretty
Not the
thin.
ones behind our houses.
They're
Across the back, they look a lot different. There's two different trees there now.
Yeah, so they look good on
Down
the
and back.
school side.
Yeah, down and back.
So Rick, is there gonna be an access path around the entire perimeter?
Yes. Yeah. And we're showing this, as I spoke to you, we're showing this at a conceptual level, and that we have to meet all amenities, meeting the space and bulk requirements, meeting the, I don't think we have any problem with any of these things, we just have to show it and provide the actual detailed drawing to
Right.
meet the requirements, correct?
That raises a question in my mind based on some of the things you just said. I thought we were past the conceptual stage. Is this hearing for the final or?
Options to the building. And what we have to do is we have to make sure that we're doing it in a way that the utility people are comfortable with how we're doing it. That's what I mean.
Okay. Because I thought this
You
hearing.
said the drawing though was the conceptual, correct?
No, this is, the drawing is cast in stone.
Okay.
I was gonna say, I thought this was
Okay.
for the.
That's where I-
for the
Yeah,
final.
sorry.
So the additional permit would be plumbing.
Right.
Yeah.
The state takes care of the electrical side.
Right.
And they're moving it to
Just south of the parking lot?
just south of the parking lot, okay.
Since,
Yeah, they're gonna put it between where the new field is going, and I think where they're gonna plan for some parking, I think is a conversation I had with Gary.
Since they did away with T Park, I noticed there's a large influx, of course not now with the weather the way it was, but late this summer and everything, once they started over here.
It's gonna be relocated to the south side of the parking lot, so that it can still be used around the ball fields.
Okay.
Pretty much the same neighborhood and everything right there,
That's
so.
good.
And we think it's a great thing.
Yeah.
We think it's
Good.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Just a comment, if you're beyond the airport, that those park is up in that area. One of the biggest complaints that they have is leaving their home and their garage and having to put their vehicle out. There's a lot of, that is one of the things that bugs them quite a bit. And I guess it would bug me some too, probably. Those of us that are used to having garages. Even covered like a patio or somewhere for people that move in for those kinds of apartments.
The only, and if I can respond to that, Leisure Gardens, Leisure Village, and Presque Isle has, I believe, 17 garage bays, which garages to be rented out for those individuals who want their cars sheltered year-round. One of the issues I also will mention, your 1.25 parking spaces, I hear what you're saying. It's, everybody wants their vehicle protected, especially if that's what they've been accustomed to, and I'm sure if there's an opportunity to make that feasible
And this is really the next step in housing before nursing home care. And, the need continues to grow for this type of housing. there's a gap that needs to be filled between the independent living. There's basic, and a lot of times they go live with family members, or they go to Leisure Garden, Leisure Village, or, but the need for this housing is great. The demand's gonna continue to get greater for these type of services. But the people living in these types of housing, small, this is independent, it's self-pay, it's not a true assisted living facility. There will be à la carte services there. It's considered aging in place. You could go there at 62 and so that housing, and I understand because I deal with those tenants all the time, and plowing is difficult and it's hard for them. Unfortunately, that's federally subsidized housing. The government funds that to build that, and they don't allow for funds to build garages. It's just the basic needs, and the numbers work, obviously. It's all about making the numbers work, and obviously that's something that we would surely look at.
You made reference to one of your, are you, you plan on living there?
Do I plan on living
No.
there?
Okay.
Not at this time.
Okay.
It's kind of what I've done my whole career, so.
Your name again was? Your name? Name?
Sean Pelletier.
Sean Pelletier.
So I think it should be said again, that really one-bedroom apartment, shoehorn their whole life in there, park their car outside. It's a tough decision, but right now, there's no place for these folks to go.
And I will say that I have personally spoken to some who have done that and kicked themselves for not having done it 10 years earlier. That the choice.
Say that, it was the best thing that they've done.
You know, the government would say that aging in place is the best thing, and it is, to a point, when that's no longer possible.
Any other questions from anybody?
The final approval of the independent living senior housing for Hilltop.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? We're here for these first two matters. Are free to leave if you wish.
Thank you.
I thought he bought it though.
You thought he what?
I didn't realize he was involved all along. I
Oh.
thought he acquired it. Thank you for having me.
Okay, moving on to the third item of new business, public hearing regarding the acceptance of floodplain management ordinance as suggested by the State of Maine Floodplain Management Program, the Department of Agriculture. I have a question, Ken, are people, is this going to create any new abilities as in able to buy flood insurance, or have people always been able to buy flood insurance?
People have always been recommended, reference Chapter 13 of our zoning, which we had to in turn go back and decipher back in the state statute.
Okay.
So,
Close the public hearing, both as of 6:33, seeing as there is no members of the general public to speak.
I would say I did flip through each and every page, and basically it's just they've cleared up the language, they've referenced the right statute and section.
Recommend it?
What are we doing?
To accept.
To accept it.
Okay, I make a motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded, we accept the floodplain management ordinance as recommended by the state of Maine. Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous.
Been a couple documents that you didn't get in your packet that came in late.
Oh.
One is a lady that's applying for a home occupation. And she's a therapeutic massage person in a building that actually had a home occupation in it before. And she plans on starting small, maybe 10 clients per week. No on-street parking, limited hours. I believe her stepfather's house.
I
But this
know,
is a first read, we don't have to act on this tonight, because it came to us late. And the other very exciting thing,
Their advertising on the side of the building just says Dunkin'.
excuse me, it's Dunkin' Brands, Inc. But it's a very good application. The application they pulled down from our website was a site design review application. What they really,
My concern with this is the traffic with the new school going in. Has that been
yeah,
discussed or?
Yeah, they
just-
mentioned that in here.
as you flip through, you can see they're trying very hard not to queue too many cars out on Bennett Drive.
Yeah.
That being said,
And I've seen similar, Dunkin' Donuts with similar traffic issues, and it, again, with a second entrance in the back, it seems to work, but where this is a new thing, again, when,
and I believe we'll get to talk to the developer at the time that we consider the application formally.
Yeah, if you look at the picture, you can see where the house was. I mean, where Kathy's place is.
well, it's in the circle, isn't it?
No,
Am I in the wrong?
it's right here.
Walking distance to the school.
Gotta get them all coffeeed up and send them to school.
that could alleviate some of the traffic, put a br-
And with the loss of Park Street, and the chief of police told me that the majority of that morning traffic is all school teachers going to Tim Hortons. So if you guys go to Dunkin' instead,
When you,
People exiting the school parking lot can just kind of skip across the road, because that would be a problem. But if it's gonna be a little bit of a pain in the neck.
I do know that there will be,
I mean, is
the
this,
A and be done in June,
yeah,
this?
yeah,
May 19.
yeah.
Oh, wow. So this is gonna be done before the road project is done?
Yeah, anticipated start date is 4/19.
There'll be public hearings on both of these in the next meeting. Anything else? So-
well, we've got a brief staff report. Notices of violation, followed up on a multitude of the previous violation of notices. We conducted an inspection at the request of the Department of Health and Human Services. 20 packets, I think guardianship of these people. The ownership of the building hasn't been, I haven't had a solution to that yet. Basically, no one's paying the bills. These people have become wards of the state, or want to take the building. The building itself, in my inspection, is not in bad shape. But if you can imagine sitting on the edge of a queen-size bed, in the cellar spaces, we're filled to about 5 feet high with just small little paths to navigate. You could visually see at what point that the elder, but there's a son there who was disabled. So that's still up in the air how we're going to handle that. I did park and live in. That's in our code. That's in our universal code for property maintenance. It's about 1 sentence long. There were, however, unlicensed vehicles parked on the yard. No way to get in the front door. No way to get in the kitchen door. All access was through the basement door, which was open for about 2 months. I don't think anyone bothered it, because once you step inside, you're just greeted with a mountain of work. They're starting to get to the point where they're giving us some estimates, some numbers of what these streetlights are going to cost us, and what they figure will be the savings. Of course, it's the savings going to pay for the lights, so ideally there would be no. We ran into, at the last time we spoke, we ran into a sea of effluent that was left there for 26 years. We're still wrestling with that. The latest plan for what effluent is left in the digester building is we're going to pour
Wood ash
the wood ashes on site.
is on site.
Yeah. What happened is we held up our contractor and we got shuffled to the back of his priority list.
So we're working on that. So demolition, environmental cleanup continues. Council, Economic Growth Council, excuse me. So we've located all those properties that the city owns, as acquired through taxes or whatnot. We've also, building here. We were kind of hoping that there would be a cluster, that we could go in and say, okay, take care of the blight and make a development. So that study's ongoing. So, ventures, section 110, demolition. We've had some buildings that really need to go away. We've got some blights in this community. Exterior property areas, so motor vehicles or tall weeds. We're working on that. Rubbish and garbage. Here where people are saying, okay, enough. It's fall time. We've been looking at this all summer. We've also dealt with a couple rubbish haulers that have not been properly permitted or licensed. We've been chasing them pretty much all season. We're Utilities District Trustees meeting, AIDS Friendly Communities Committee meeting, downtown team meeting, Caribou downtown meeting, team meeting, Tri-Community Landfill meeting, training, performance evaluations, passed. There was harassment. It was very interesting. That was in her office. And upcoming, we were in a server failure. So bear with us. We'll get it done. The Airport Advisory Board would like to meet with the Planning Board. I've talked to Shane McDougall and he said he would like to meet with us in activity at the airport. I think there's been some realization that maybe there could be some acceptable level of development on the airport property. And basically their program.
The airport master plan is supposed to be updated in 2019. So this is a precursor meeting to what we want to pull in from the general plan into the airport master plan, which then affects our...
I was able to find a template that we could use and we'll make it more Caribou-esque and see that if we can't send that out to all area businesses. And that's all I had.
Extensive public hearings we had, I think we're boarded out.
I don't know, I like Dennis's slideshows, his PowerPoints. I think they're really well put together.